Hello, this is James with the new YouTube channel Men's Natural Health, and the date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And today I want to talk about a key aspect of men's health, which is testosterone. Okay, so we're all about helping men to optimize their health naturally because maintaining your health, regardless of age, is important for getting the most out of life. And we want to be able to help you do that. So, the topic I'm going to cover today is testosterone. And again, this is men's natural health, and it's Friday, November 3rd, 2023. So let's talk about testosterone. What is testosterone? Well, testosterone has been called the master male hormone, and it's called the master male hormone because it's responsible for a lot of those functions that we associate with manhood and manliness. So, testosterone helps you to build muscle. It helps you to shed body fat and to keep the body fat off. Testosterone helps provide your body with energy and stamina, whether that's energy and stamina for your workouts or for performing well at the office and other aspects of your life. It's the hormone that, it puts hair on your chest, puts hair on your face. It's the hormone that deepens your voice. It's the hormone that helps with libido function and lots of other things. So that's why testosterone has been nicknamed the master male hormone, because it's involved in so many different important functions of the body. It's even been nicknamed the Wolverine hormone. And if you've ever, when you were younger, you ever watched the cartoons X-Men, or you read the comics, the X-Men comics, or maybe you've seen the X-Men movies or the Wolverine spin-off those movies, it's nicknamed the Wolverine hormone after Wolverine. Okay, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek nickname because testosterone helps your body to recover faster. So that could mean recovering faster after a workout. It could mean recovering faster after an injury. Okay. And the reason it's nicknamed the Wolverine hormone is because Wolverine, if you've ever seen the comics or watched the movies, he heals very, very quickly. That's his superpower. I think there's a scene in the movie where he gets like shot in the shoulder, and then almost instantly you see his body start to push that bullet back out. And while testosterone doesn't give you that kind of superhuman ability to recover, it is a hormone that can help you recover faster after an injury. So testosterone, it's very important. It's a very important hormone for men. And so now we're going to talk about how it changes as you get older. And so again, this is Men's Natural Health, new YouTube channel. Excited that you're here. And the date today, it's Friday, November 3rd, 2023. So testosterone, how does it change as you get older? Well, we'll start when you're a baby in your mama's womb. Your body is actually, if you're a boy, your body is actually being pumped with a lot of testosterone. And that testosterone helps you to grow, to have a male anatomy, and those kinds of things. And so then, of course, after you're born, and when you reach teenage years is when the testosterone really starts to amp up, and it shows in your development. So testosterone is going to, when you were maybe playing flag football as a kid, if you remember, maybe 6 or 7 years old, you would get down and your coach would have you do push-ups, your coach would have you run sprints, all of these things. And it didn't really change the way that your body looked. It was something you did and you could get stronger, but your body didn't go through many changes. But then after you turn, 13, 14 years old, you start doing some push-ups and you start doing some sprints and you start doing some pull-ups, and you see the physical changes in your body. And that's because as you get older, you reach puberty, your body starts to pump out more of this testosterone to help with your development. And so then, of course, that it has an impact on, okay, you turn 13, you start getting maybe, a little scruff on your chin, a little bit on the mustache, okay, and then your voice, it gets a little deeper, and the Adam's apple shows up, and you start to go through these different changes that we associate with masculinity. Okay, you start to build muscle. You start to, of course, there's other functions that start to happen. You start to get facial hair and all of these things. And so that's a part of, the process, the testosterone process in someone's life. Now, by the time you hit your 30s and 40s, that process starts to change, okay? While your body was pumping a lot of testosterone in your teens, probably in your early 20s, studies show that when you hit 30, your body starts to produce about 1% less testosterone every year. So if you do the math on that, you're producing 1% less testosterone every year from starting at 30. Well, if you're a man in your 40s, 50s, 60s and up, that's quite a dramatic change from what it used to be. And that's not even including other factors, which I'm going to cover in later videos. That's not even including other factors that actually accelerate the loss of testosterone, or less of a production of testosterone as you get older. There are other factors involved, including stress, including the type of diet that you eat, how many processed foods you eat, exposure to chemicals in things like toothpaste, body wash and shampoo and soap, plastics, chemicals in water, pesticides sprayed on fruits and vegetables. There are a lot of factors that go into your testosterone levels and how they change with age, and they kind of can accelerate the age-related decline that most men go through. The good news is there's ways to kind of buffer that, and we will also cover that in this channel. And so you can expect, though, that as you get older, your testosterone levels, they'll begin to change, they'll dip, and we're going to cover a lot of those factors on this channel. Okay, so that's kind of more about what testosterone is, just in case you needed a better idea. We've covered so far why testosterone is important for men, and I want to reiterate that you can do things that promote higher and healthier testosterone levels. So even if your levels are on the lower end, that's not all there is to the story. There are things that you can do. Let's say, someone is 35 years old, they get a blood test, their testosterone levels are on the lower end. Then they start making some changes to their nutrition. They start sleeping better. They start hitting the weights. And then, they can get older. It could be 4 years later, they go back to get a blood test, and lo and behold, their testosterone are levels are higher than when they were a few years previously. And that's because they made those good changes. All right, so we talked about the changes. We briefly touched on some of the factors, other factors aside from age that impact testosterone. And now we're going to keep going, and we're going to talk about some natural ways to increase it. Again, this is James, and this is the new YouTube channel, Men's Natural Health, and where we talk about ways for men to improve their health naturally so they can get the most out of life. All right, so continuing on, how to increase testosterone. Oh, and by the way, the date today is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. So how to increase testosterone. The best way that you can start to increase your testosterone levels almost immediately is to improve sleep. Sleep is it's an almost effortless way to not only improve your testosterone levels, but to improve your overall health in general. Okay, sleep is kind of like a reset button for your body that God's given to you. You know, every single night you can go to sleep and your body starts to do these amazing things, starts to repair itself in amazing ways. And one way you can actually tell is, well, there are a couple of ways. So you know how when maybe you only get 3 hours of sleep or something like that, you had to pull a late night, or you just had a hard time sleeping, you only get 3 hours of sleep. Well, you feel the next day, you feel mentally you're not as clear, you have a hard time focusing. So that shows that, okay, you missed out on something that was really good for your health, this process that your body goes through to reset you mentally and emotionally. And speaking of emotionally, you can feel grumpy if you don't get a lot of sleep, and that's natural because your hormones are going up and down. They're out of whack. And so you notice that after maybe a day or a couple of days of not getting a lot of sleep, you tend to be a little grumpier, a little snappier at people around you. And that is because while you sleep, your body is doing these amazing things to reset your hormones and kind of recalibrate your body for the next day. Along with that, you notice you get cravings, right? When you stay up late, how many times have you noticed that all of a sudden you want to eat a lot of sugary foods? You have a bunch of cravings. If you were on a diet, if you were sticking well to a diet, you pull an all-nighter or something like that, and all of a sudden you just want to go off the rails. That is because sleep it resets your hunger hormones and makes it, which obviously makes it easier to stick to a diet because you don't have these up and down cravings. And then when you do eat sugar, what happens is if you notice, if you look at your belly after a string of maybe a couple of nights where you're not getting a lot of sleep, you'll notice it's probably a little puffier than usual, especially if you normally don't have a whole ton of body fat. You're kind of probably within the 10 to 20% range. You might notice that after a couple of nights of poor sleep, well, you can't see your abs as much. That's because then when you eat, your body becomes insulin resistant. So it doesn't utilize that sugar the way that it would if you had gotten plenty of sleep, and that causes fat gain. So there's all of these factors. I'll mention two more. And this all is all about the importance of sleep. And the first factor, you'll notice that when you stay up, you get less sleep, your breath stinks. And your breath doesn't stink just randomly, or because you stayed up later, and just like maybe you were eating a little more food or something like that because you were just staying up later. You can brush your teeth at the same time you do at night, and brush your teeth at the same time the next morning. But if you didn't get a lot of sleep, your breath will smell because there's bacteria that build up, bad bacteria in your body when you don't get enough good sleep. Sleep is great for the good bacteria in your gut, and that impacts even your biome, your microbiome in your mouth as well. So there's that. And then one last one, when you don't sleep, and this is a sign that shows how important sleep is, you'll notice your skin. You start to have more acne, or your skin looks dull and tired. You just don't look refreshed, right? That's kind of like why women, they get offended when you might say to them, "Oh, honey, you look tired." Because normally we associate tired with, oh, your skin looks dull, you've got these bags under your eyes, your skin looks a little older. And that's because your skin repairs while you sleep. So those are just a few of the important things with sleep. And I'm going to get to testosterone here in a second, but just want to remind you, this is a new channel, Men's Natural Health. I'm James. And today it's Friday, November 3rd, 2023. We're recording this video. So, sleep and how it relates to testosterone. Well, studies show that in a study from the University of Chicago, they took young men, so these men were in their early 20s, and they restricted their sleep for 1 week. And so these men went from being able to have 8 hours of sleep per night to having 5 hours of sleep per night. Okay. And what they discovered was, after restricting sleep for 5 hours per night for a week, these men's testosterone levels dropped by about 60%. And that is huge, just from not getting enough sleep. And remember, these were young men. These were men in their early 20s. So you can expect that as you get older and you're missing out on sleep, your body probably is going to produce even less testosterone than it did for those guys. And it can tend to get difficult as you get older to get enough sleep because as you get older, you have more responsibilities. You have, a work, a job, a career with deadlines that you have to meet. You have a family, and maybe you've got a newborn in the house or something like that. Or just the everyday challenges that come with having a family. Maybe your kids are, they're about to graduate high school and there are a lot of questions up in the air. Things like that. As you get older, there's just more on your plate. And that a lot of times men, they cut back on the most important thing that they could be doing, and that is sleeping for 8 hours a night. And of course, just like I mentioned earlier, with all of these factors, it impacts every part of your life. And because, like we discussed right away in this video, testosterone has an impact on energy and muscle and stamina and bedroom performance and all of these things, you can expect that not getting enough sleep is going to have a drastic impact on your life, and probably one that you won't enjoy. So if you're not feeling like yourself, you've been feeling just really tired, you've been feeling like maybe you can't put on muscle or you can't lose weight, or you're kind of moody and you're not sure why, think about your sleep and be honest with yourself about whether you've been getting the proper amount of sleep that you need, which again, you want to shoot for 8 hours. And then of course, 7 to 9, somewhere in between there is just fine too. Again, this is James, and this channel is Men's Natural Health, and it is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And we're talking about ways to increase your testosterone levels. And so we just covered sleep. The next way to increase your testosterone levels that I want to cover is resistance training with compound exercises. Okay, so let's break that down. Resistance training. Resistance training is when you train with some kind of resistance. Typically, that's going to be some kind of weights. Okay, so if you think about resistance training, you'll think about probably using barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells. You can think about using resistance bands, though you generally want to shoot for something that's going to challenge you physically. And if resistance bands can't provide that challenge, they may not be the best way to go. Though there are ways to make resistance band exercises a little more complicated. And that's something that we'll cover in this channel as well. All of these different kinds of workouts you can do to increase your male health. Another form of resistance training, it might be pushing against a resistance. So for example, when you played high school football, if you remember, there was the sled, right? So you had someone standing on the back of the sled, and you would push up against the sled and drive your legs and try to push that back, 10 yards or 20 yards until the coach blew the whistle. That form of training, that is a form of resistance training because you're pushing against a resistance. Same thing if, you see a strong man, right? And he puts a rope. I don't recommend doing this, but he ties a rope to a truck or a car and he walks, crawls, bear crawls. He's pulling that. That's a type of resistance training. And there are much safer ways to do resistance training than that. Maybe you could tie a rope to, your teen son, and, he'll go in one direction, you'll go in the other direction. And you guys can have some fun with some resistance training that way. See who falls down first. So resistance training, and the key here is to use compound exercises. Now, there are two different types of exercises, generally speaking, when we're talking about resistance training. There's isolation exercises and compound exercises. So an isolation exercise is when you isolate a certain muscle group and you just focus on that one muscle group. For example, a bicep curl. So if I turn to the side here, right, if we have my bicep here, a bicep curl, you're going to pull the dumbbell and you're going to squeeze your bicep, right? It's just hitting that muscle. Okay, so that is an isolation movement. So instead of an isolation movement, studies show that the best way to initiate a testosterone boosting response is to do compound movements, compound exercises. In fact, this connection is so powerful that some scientists would say that you can literally command your body to produce more testosterone by doing these compound resistance training exercises. And I'll get into more on that in a second. Again, I want to remind you this channel is Men's Natural Health. And today's date, it's Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Our goal is to help men live their best lives by taking care of their health. And it's so important to take care of your health for longevity and just to feel your best and to feel confident, and to be able to be your best self for you and for your loved ones. So that's what we want to help you do. Now, on to, again, what I was saying with resistance training, compound movements. The reason that scientists say that this is a way of virtually commanding your body to produce more testosterone is because when you challenge your muscles with heavy compound movements, and I'm going to get into some details on what those exact movements are in a minute, but when you challenge your body with those movements, what happens is you send a signal to your hormones to produce testosterone. And so what happens is you put your body through this challenge, and your body says, we need to adapt if we're going to rise to this challenge. We need to adapt and we need to grow. We need to help this man, this vessel, to be able to overcome this obstacle. And as a result, your body begins to produce more testosterone. And it does that more than if you were to do an exercise that, isn't so challenging for you. Okay. And, I'm going to sidebar here on stress. Stress in the right context is wonderful for you. Okay. Too much stress. And this is stress, just being stressed out all the time because of work or relational conflicts or, whatever, a number of factors that could be at play. Too much stress, constant stress can lower your testosterone levels. And I'm going to get into more of that in a second, but you can think of it kind of like a teeter-totter that you would play on in grade school. When one side goes, up, the other goes down. When one side goes down, the other goes up. That's how it is when you have stress that releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol comes up, testosterone comes down. But cortisol comes down, testosterone goes up, okay? And so too much stress can cause cortisol levels to elevate and stay elevated, which keeps your testosterone levels low. However, if you provide your body with the right kind of stress, which is during exercise, during training hard, it has the opposite response. That stress, that temporary stress, is good for your body. You want temporary stress, okay? That's the difference here. You want temporary challenges. You don't want to be a stressed out man who feels like throughout, every day you're just stressed out about something. It's important to work on stress management, and we'll talk about that in later videos as well to help keep those cortisol levels balanced. But you do want to engage in activities that provide temporary stress. You do want to do hard things, and that is one of the benefits of resistance training with compound movements. Okay, it's very challenging on your body, and it provides the right kind of temporary stress because typically you're doing these movements ideally within a 30 to 60 minute window. Okay, so again, this is Men's Natural Health. I'm so glad you're here, and it is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And so we just got done talking about resistance training with compound movements. And so now I want to give you some exercises that, that are the best that you can do to initiate a testosterone response. And I'll explain a little bit why that is as well for each exercise. So compound movements. So some of the best to start with are squats. Okay. Even if you can't do a barbell squat, maybe you don't want to put the barbell across your back. Some of that can cause compression of the spine, which is something that you don't want, but you know what's best for you. You know how you feel after doing a movement like a squat. You know, if your lower back is killing you, it could be a sign that maybe you want to move on to a different squat variation. So squats, you can do barbell squats. You can do a goblet squat, which is where you hold the weight out in front of you. Just you hold it tightly to your chest like a dumbbell or a kettlebell, and you squat that way. You can also do things like Bulgarian split squats, which is where you hold dumbbells in two hands and you put one leg up onto a bench, and then your opposite leg that's still on the floor is the one that you squat with. Okay, so that's not only a challenging workout for strength and for muscle building, it's also very challenging for cardio, because you'll find that after you do that first leg, you do 10 reps on that first leg, you're starting to get gassed, so that by the time you switch over to that next leg, well, you're already kind of huffing and puffing a little bit. So it's a really great exercise. So squats, remember we were talking about the difference between an isolation movement and a compound movement. When it comes to squats, you're engaging your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your calves, your lower back, your entire core, including your abdominals. So there are a lot of muscle groups involved in a squat. So that's a great resistance compound exercise. Another good one is deadlift. And again, this is something that you need to judge whether it's a good fit or not for you. And you can do deadlifts with dumbbells, or you can do them with barbells. Probably one of the safest ways to do it is with a trap bar, if your gym has a trap bar. And a trap bar, basically, it looks like you have the sides where you put the weights, but it looks like a box, and you stand inside of that little opening, that box opening, and you grab the handles of the bar and you stand up. And it's just kind of an easier, more natural way to do the movement. So you can't fit as much weight on it, and you need to be careful with the amount of weight you select anyways. But if you don't like using a barbell, then a trap bar could be a good way to go. So the deadlift, why is it such a great exercise for testosterone? Well, it targets your entire posterior chain. So that's the back side of your body. So that includes your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back. It's a good core movement as well. Great for your core. It also includes your traps and your upper back, your lats, and you even can feel, you feel the pull in your triceps as well. So there's a lot of muscles involved in a deadlift, which makes it one of the best resistance training compound exercises you can do to boost your testosterone levels. And I'm going to give you a couple more here in a second. And the channel again is Men's Natural Health. And the date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Okay, so more compound exercises. Another good one is the bench press. And this can include multiple bench press variations. So just a standard flat bench, whether you're doing a barbell bench or dumbbell bench press, either one is just fine. You can do flat, you can do incline, or you can do decline. And this movement, the bench press, of course, you're targeting your chest, which is a major muscle group, and then you also are including your triceps, and your shoulders get some action as well. It does involve even a little bit of core stabilization as you're doing the movement. So it's a really good movement. If you have a hard time with maybe a barbell, I suggest dumbbells over barbells pretty much all the time, because it allows for a more natural range of motion. The barbell is fixed, so it's it's a fixed weight. You can't maneuver it. You can't adjust it so that maybe your shoulders are a little more comfortable. The range of motion is going to look the same on a barbell every single time, regardless of who you are. It really should look the same. But when it comes to dumbbells, you have a little more wiggle room so that your shoulders, you can get your shoulders in a little bit more of a comfortable position for you. You can even if you do the movement with your arms, they don't come out as far, they come a little closer, or maybe you want to squeeze your inner chest and bring the dumbbells together at the top of the movement instead of keeping your arms out like you have to do with a barbell bench. The dumbbells really do provide a lot of great options, ways to adjust to fit your body. So that's a good one. Another good one is bent over rows. So that could be done again with a barbell or a dumbbell or dumbbells. And the goal for these rows is you hinge over at the hips and you pull the weight towards it can be towards your belly button, or you can pull it towards your sternum. And that's whether you want to work your upper back more or you want to work your lats more, which is the side of your back. And this, of course, also it involves all of those muscles. It also involves your traps and your biceps. So doing a barbell row is a great option to build your back. So those are the big four exercises, resistance training compound exercises that are going to help initiate that testosterone response. That's gonna help boost your testosterone levels temporarily during your workout, and that's going to have a positive effect over time. And so definitely want to do those. We're going to talk about not all exercise is created equally. So in later videos, I'm going to talk about exercises you want to avoid. And a lot of men get this wrong. They think any exercise is good exercise for their hormones, but that's not true. So we're going to kind of lay that out for you in later videos. So we're glad that you're here. Now I'm going to tell you my favorite form of cardio that also will trigger a fantastic hormonal response. All right, so this YouTube channel is Men's Natural Health. The date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. My name is James. And now I want to share my favorite form of cardio that also helps with this testosterone response. Now, I'm not going to talk about, I'll touch on one first, but this isn't my favorite cardio. This isn't my favorite exercise, but this is still great. And I should make this distinction before we go into a video in detail in the future, because so many men make this mistake. So the best form of cardio to initiate a testosterone response is high intensity interval training. Okay. With high intensity interval training, you have a burst of, cardio for, a burst of effort for a short period of time. It could be 15 seconds, it could be 30 seconds, it could be a minute. And then after that short burst, you have a recovery period. Okay. Maybe the recovery period is 30 seconds or, 60 or 90 seconds. Okay. So that's kind of, and then you kind of repeat. So you have, a certain amount of work, certain amount of rest, certain amount of work, certain amount of rest. And that's HIIT cardio compared to something called steady state cardio, which is where it's just work. Just work for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Some guys, they'll run, miles, right? They'll run 10 miles and it's just work. That steady state cardio has actually been shown to have a negative impact on testosterone levels for men. And that's because it can increase inflammation in the body. Now, the best example of this is if you've ever watched the Olympics. You'll see the men who are the sprinters, and sprinting is HIIT cardio, right? These guys are sprinting for, 8 seconds or whatever, and then they're done. Okay. You look at these guys, they are absolutely jacked. Okay. Their legs are huge, even their upper body, absolutely massive. And that's because this kind of exercise triggers the testosterone and growth hormone response in a man. Now, if you compare those sprinters to distance runners, the guys who are running the 800 meter, guys who are running the mile, and you'll notice those guys are a lot skinnier, right? The guys who are running the long distance, very skinny. And so you see this difference in, clearly one of them is initiating a response that triggers muscle growth, whereas the other is not. And we see that's a prime example of HIIT cardio and why you want to do more of that. And on this channel, we're going to give you some awesome ideas for HIIT cardio that you can do at home. You can even do in your basement. So that's why we would want you to stick around this channel, because we're going to provide a lot of material like that. So you won't have to go find a track and go sprint, or find a hill and go sprint. You can actually have a fantastic HIIT cardio workout in your basement, and you actually hardly even have to move. You're not running back and forth. There are stationary things you can do, exercises you can do that are going to trigger this fantastic testosterone boosting response. Okay, so now I'm going to give you one of my favorite exercises that's going to trigger a similar response, but it's actually much easier than doing HIIT cardio. And again, this is the YouTube channel. It's Men's Natural Health. And today is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And so here we go with this, this exercise. It's called a farmer carry or a farmer walk. Okay. And what you do is you take a dumbbell, in each hand or a kettlebell in each hand, and you hold it at your side and you just walk. Okay. Maybe you walk 20 yards and you turn around and you walk 20 yards back, or maybe you walk 50 yards. And then after you reach your destination or the amount of yards you want to walk, you put the weight down, you take a little breather, you do it again. So it's a HIIT workout in that way. But this is going to challenge you much more than just walking, because you have weights. And that weight is obviously, it's gravity. It's pulling your body down. And so you're fighting that weight as you're walking. You're fighting that resistance. So it's a kind of a gentle form of HIIT cardio that also doubles as a resistance training exercise, even a compound resistance training exercise, because here's what you're doing. When you're holding the weights, not only are you working your legs because you're walking while holding the weights, but you'll notice as you get, 15, 20, 30 yards out, that you start to feel your other muscle groups really engage. So you start to feel your shoulders and your traps and your upper back begin to really engage in the movement as you hit that 20 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. Your triceps, your forearms, everything gets engaged, and your core, it gets engaged throughout this movement. So it's really a fantastic movement. And then if you want to boost the cardio effect of it even more, you want to make it more challenging, try only breathing through your nose. So the entire exercise, you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, not through your mouth at all. And you'll notice that because the nose, because the airway is smaller, it's more challenging, and it makes the cardio, your heart rate will jump up, and it's going to be a fantastic workout, not just for your muscles, but also for your heart and your cardio. Another way to make this challenging is to, instead of holding a dumbbell in one hand, in two hands, you hold it in one hand. Okay, now this has its trade-off. It kind of depends on your goals. So, if you're carrying the weight in both hands, obviously it's going to activate those muscle groups more. But if you only hold the weight in, say, your right hand, what's going to happen is your entire core on the left side of your body has to engage. And if you don't have a ton of body fat, you'll be able to touch that part of your stomach, and you'll feel your obliques and your abs are rock solid on that opposite side of your body, because those muscles are engaged to hold your body upright so that it doesn't fall over when you have weight on that side. So you can do, hold in one arm, your right arm, a dumbbell or a kettlebell for, 30 yards, turn around, switch arms, walk back, only breathing through your nose, and you get an incredible core workout along with a fantastic cardio workout. And this is also providing resistance training, and it's a compound movement. So farmer carries can be a fantastic way and a simple way to really get, in my opinion, it's the biggest bang for your buck, because you're getting all of these benefits in one simple exercise. All right, this channel is Men's Natural Health, and the date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Again, my name is James, and I'm so glad that you're here. And so we're talking about these ways to increase testosterone. We talked about sleep and how important that is. We talked about resistance training with compound exercises, how important that is. We even talked a little bit about the difference between HIIT cardio and steady state cardio. And then I gave you my favorite HIIT cardio exercise that also involves resistance training compound movements, which is the farmer carry. And now I'm going to talk about nutrition, and specifically male-centered nutrition. Now, this is very important. Male-centered, that's very important. A lot of men think that any diet is a good diet. Many men, their wives will say, "Hey, honey, I'm going on a diet. I think we should do this together." And, the man, he'll probably agree, yeah, I could lose a few pounds, we should do this diet. But he doesn't know that the diet that she's following, the foods that she's eating to optimize her health, aren't necessarily going to be the best for you, and especially not for your hormones. Now, cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your eating habits is always a good thing, but there are ways that it's more optimal than others. And so we're going to start with talking about carbs. Okay, so carbohydrates. And it's no secret, cutting carbs is one of the biggest diet trends in the world. It started back, if you remember, probably 20, 30 years ago as the Atkins diet. And now we call it the ketogenic diet, which is virtually the same thing. The goal is to cut out carbohydrates. As you cut carbohydrates, your body begins to, instead of using sugar as fuel, begins to use fat as fuel. And so you start to lose fat fast on a ketogenic diet. Okay, but what they don't tell you about the ketogenic diet is that for men, actually eating carbohydrates is very important. Studies show that when men stop eating carbohydrates, and these are good carbohydrates, this isn't like cupcakes and donuts. This is carbohydrates like sweet potatoes, apples, berries, things like that. When men stop eating good carbohydrates like those, it actually lowers their testosterone levels. Why does it do that? Well, carbohydrates, again, from whole food sources, good, healthy, rich in micronutrients, carbohydrates, they help to lower stress levels in the body. They lower cortisol. And if you remember when I was talking earlier in this video, cortisol is the seesaw hormone, right? When cortisol is up, testosterone is down. When cortisol is down, testosterone is up. So you want to minimize your cortisol levels appropriately, and that is going to help you maintain higher testosterone levels. So it's important for men to have carbohydrates in their diet. And while keto provides a good option for probably fast fat loss, it is good to, in my opinion, to only make it a temporary thing, to not make it your forever diet, but to make it temporary. And then when you go back into eating carbohydrates, you focus on slowly introducing carbohydrates back into your diet. And again, you're not going overboard with carbohydrates. What you're doing is you're reintroducing, maybe the first week you start adding some strawberries and blueberries back into your diet. Then the following week you add an apple in there. And then the following week you decide, I'm going to have sweet potato with dinner for a couple of nights. Okay. You don't need a ton of carbohydrates, but you do need carbohydrates for optimal testosterone levels. So again, this is Men's Natural Health. That's the name of this YouTube channel. The date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And we want to help you live your best, healthiest life by being able to naturally improve and support your health. Okay, and so today we're talking about testosterone. So along with carbs, there's a certain time that I recommend you eat carbs. And it's not all the time. You shouldn't be binging on carbs all day. I suggest that you only eat carbohydrates at these 2 times a day: immediately after your workout and before bed. The reason I suggest that, this is called carb timing. And so the reason I suggest you eat carbohydrates right after your workout is because that is when your body needs them the most. So when you train, your muscles, they have glycogen, okay, and they have glycogen stores. When you train your muscles, those stores get lower and lower and lower. They virtually empty out, okay? Basically, your muscles have used glucose to help you throughout your workout, okay? And now what it needs again is it needs now glucose reintroduced into the body to help recover those stores, to help build those stores back up. And this promotes muscle growth. So that's why right after your workout, it's a great time to have carbohydrates, because your body actually needs them at that time. It actually wants them at that time. It's not just I'm bored and I need something, a little sweet to keep me going, or I'm tired, I need a little something to keep me going. It is no, your body, physiologically would like to have some carbohydrates after your workout. So it doesn't mean going overboard. Again, not cupcakes, not donuts. We're talking, this would be the perfect time to have an apple, or to have oatmeal and some berries and strawberries and maybe a little bit of honey, things like that. And then the next best time to have carbohydrates is before bed. And again, this has to do with carbohydrates' impact on the hormone cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So if you eat a little bit of carbohydrates before bed, this is not late night snacking, okay? This is not, let me go grab the, couple slices of pizza out of the fridge from last night. This is, I want to have just some carbohydrates that help calm and soothe my body, soothe my stress levels, so that I can get a good night of sleep, which we discussed at the beginning is the most important thing you can do for your testosterone levels, is getting a good night of sleep. So you can maybe have some unflavored not sugar sweetened, but some unflavored yogurt with some berries in it. That would be great. Berries are just fantastic antioxidants. They're fantastic for the body. You can't go wrong really with maybe you have a sweet potato with maybe a little bit of butter, sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on there, and it gives a little bit of that sweetness. So things like that that you can do before bed to help you sleep better. So timing your carbs during those times of day is going to be a fantastic way to kind of have your cake and eat it too. All right, so moving on, this is Men's Natural Health. That's the name of this channel. And today is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. So we just got done talking about carbs. I'm going to wrap up this video by talking about two other parts of male-centered nutrition, which is protein and fat. So protein. Protein is kind of tricky. You want to eat protein to support muscle growth. So generally, you want to shoot for between 30 and 40 grams of protein per meal or snack. Okay. Ideally, you want to have 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. If you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, that's kind of the goal. That's just an easy metric to shoot for. 1 gram of protein per pound. Now that's a lot of protein. For example, I'm only 160 pounds. Well, it's hard to get 160 grams of protein in a day. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get there? And especially since not all protein is created equally. So real quick, a source of protein you want to avoid, and we're going to cover this in other videos, is soy protein. Soy, it actually has been shown to lower testosterone levels in men. So you want to avoid it. Now, the tricky thing is, if you look on the back of labels of, say, like protein bars, you'll find ingredients like soy isolate or soy, flakes or something like that in the protein bar. And so if you're consuming a lot of these protein bars, you're consuming, a lot of soy, okay? And you just, you can't avoid all soy. Typically, there's soy in beef jerky. Most beef jerkies you'll find at the gas station have soy. There are only a brand or two that you can find that don't have soy or soy sauce in them. But that's a big no-no. You want to avoid that as much as you can. It's also important that you try to buy organic grass-fed beef, because the organic grass-fed cows, they're not being fed estrogenic feed, okay? Estrogenic grain. That estrogenic grain, it impacts the meat. What they eat impacts the meat that we eat. So you need to, or you should, as best you can, try to find organic grass-fed meat and use that as a protein source. So here are some protein sources that you want to aim for. So the best is eggs, and these are free range eggs typically that you want to shoot for. Brown eggs, blue eggs, and they're a little more on the expensive side, but they're more nutrient dense if you can get them cage free, organic. And those chickens are not being fed grain with estrogenic feed. So it is important to just try to spend that extra few cents, per egg to get the organic eggs. So eggs is a fantastic source of protein. Of course, beef, like we just talked about with the organic, keeping it organic as best you can. Bison, venison is fantastic as well. You can also fish, so salmon, tuna, and you want to be careful with the tuna just because of the mercury, but a little bit here and there, especially if you're in a pinch. Maybe you didn't bring a lunch, you didn't cook a lunch, you need to grab something real fast from the store. A 36-gram packet of tuna, a big packet of tuna could be a great option. Of course, there's always, for protein, there's protein shakes. Generally speaking, you want to look for a protein that has a small label. Okay, so sometimes you go to the supplement store and there are these protein with this big label of all of these ingredients that are hard to pronounce. Like, it really doesn't have to be that complicated, and it shouldn't be. You want to get a protein with a very small ingredient label, maybe a whey protein isolate that's naturally sweetened with like cocoa powder or, coconut milk or something like that. It's not going to taste like, as sweet as like the birthday cake flavored, ghost proteins, but that's because they have all of this artificial stuff pumped in there that you generally don't want to be putting into your body every single day. If you're going to be putting protein into your body from a supplement every single day, you want to keep the label as clean as possible too, because it's not just about protein. The other ingredients in there can impact your hormones as well, and negatively if they aren't closer to a real nutrient-rich whole foods type label. So protein powder is good. Protein bars, with all the caveats I mentioned earlier regarding soy, they're okay. But again, protein bars are processed. It's got to be like a last minute kind of thing, in my opinion, or you're on a road trip and it's like there's no better options. It's like, okay, if I need 40 grams of protein, I'll just get 2 of these, Quest bars and be on my way. But you look at the labels, there's just a lot in there. So those are all some options. You can go with Greek yogurt. Don't go for the sweetened stuff, all the sugary stuff. Cottage cheese is a good option as well. So that's protein. And again, this is Men's Natural Health. And the date is November 3rd, 2023. And we're moving right along to fat. Now, fat is something that you do want to have in your diet. In fact, some people suggest that up to 40% of your daily calories should come from fat to optimize your testosterone levels. And that's because fat has, generally speaking, the right kind of fat has good cholesterol in it, HDL cholesterol, and HDL cholesterol is the building block of testosterone. So your body can't produce as much testosterone if it doesn't have the building blocks it needs to make that testosterone. And this good HDL cholesterol is the building blocks. So you can think of, eggs, for example. I know eggs, they were kind of a toss-up probably about 20 years ago, whether people should be eating as many eggs. Well, new research shows that eggs are fine. You eat the whole egg with the yellow. You eat 2 or 3 eggs a day, is perfectly fine. And that is going to give your body some of that good cholesterol. And studies show that it is okay for your heart. But I would suggest, of course, I'm not a doctor, So I would suggest with that and all of this advice to talk to a medical professional, talk to your doctor, get that situated with him. None of this is supposed to be taken as medical advice. It's just from what I've seen in studying testosterone myself. So eggs, whole eggs, you can have some bacon as well. Bacon is another good source. Grass-fed butter is another good source. Olive oil is a fantastic source of fat. It's a monounsaturated fat. It's very good for you. And then there are avocado is a good fat, and nuts like Brazil nuts, though you only want to stick to 1 or 2 Brazil nuts per day. You don't want to eat too many Brazil nuts. Almonds, those are all some good options as far as healthy fats go. So again, this has been James with Men's Natural Health. The date is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. We're excited you're here and to be able to help you on your journey to being your healthiest and best self.